The only thing worse than being dead in a Chinese hospital is being alive in one. One day you're going down the road, like I am here in Tiger Leaping Gorge, thinking I've got an amazing trip ahead of me into Tibet, and the next day, everything changes. Hey guys, so today I'll tell you my infamous story about how I ended up in China. Especially if people are here long, most people kind of assume like, oh, you've been here over 10 years, you must be married, or you came to study, or you had long-term plans to work and stuff. And it's like, no, I was actually run over by an SUV when I was here for only about 3 weeks. So this is from 16 years ago. I came up with an idea around that time or a year before or whatever to bike around the world. And so I wanted to start in Thailand and go to Europe, and then I had other plans of doing, more than that, but at least that for about a year. And so in January of 2006, I started in Thailand, went through Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, and then into China, into Yunnan Province, which is in the southwest. And I was about to go into Tibet, and one of the last big towns there is Shangral or Zhongdian. And so, of course, you would assume a lot of accidents would happen in an area where the traffic's really busy, right? You're in a city with a few million people or someplace with a lot of traffic, that kind of thing. And of course, like in this case, it wasn't. I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I think that's actually kind of the meaning of Zhongdian. It's kind of like the middle of nowhere, up on the Tibetan plains, basically. You're just getting into the Tibetan plains. And so there's only traffic every, couple minutes. There's a car, a bus or something, but it's quite light. And the problem with that is that people don't pay attention when there's less traffic. When you're actually in a city or a busy place, there's actually, people are looking out more because you never know when someone's gonna cut in front of you. So I don't know what this guy was doing. I mean, we were on a really wide road. It's just 2 lanes, like oncoming and going this way, but it's real wide. Like there's a big shoulder, and I mean, even if 2 cars are going like this, they could still, someone behind could pass. I mean, there's just really a lot of room. It's a really new road out in that area. And so I don't know if the guy's fighting with his wife or on the phone. I just see, a couple hundred meters, he's coming around a corner, and then he just quickly shoots over to my side, like onto my shoulder almost. And there's still, 100 meters left or whatever. I mean, enough time, and I was kind of like, what the fuck? I figured he'd, figure out what's up and obviously move back right away. And, I'm even starting to weigh. I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? You're driving on the opposite side. And to the right of me, there's a huge ditch that's like 2.5 feet or a meter deep. And so it's not like I just drive there real quickly. And my bike has the panniers, like I'd have to, get off the bike, lift it up and pull it over. I don't even have time for that. Or I could drive into the ditch, which probably would I could have still gotten hit, right? And so, yeah, I kind of waved, and then it was like, yeah, slow motion. You're just like, holy shit. And it's just, and I heard later his niece even mentioned, like, he did panic and hit the gas at the end. So this guy must have been going like, 70, 80, 90 kilometers, 40, 50, 60 miles per hour. I mean, because the roads up there are pretty flat with just, like subtle turns. So it's kind of the speed most people are going on a highway or something like that. And so, I guess my legs or my femur probably hit the grill of his SUV first, which is why I had a broken femur. And my face, you can see I got a scar here, broke the windshield. I actually hit his face basically because I saw him come out afterwards. And he didn't just hit me, he hit a Tibetan guy because I'd seen that guy in the ditch afterwards. So yeah, I just flew through the air like a rag doll, hit the ground. I could see my leg was all messed up, a broken femur, and I'm just bleeding all over my body. And yeah, I see that guy screaming in the ditch, crying, screaming, and I'm basically doing the same thing. They were just looking at each other like, what the fuck just happened? The driver was about, was stopped like kind of diagonal in the road about, 100 meters up the road or whatever, and I could see the windshield was broken. It was kind of facing our direction, and he walked up, and his face is bleeding, and he's like held my hands like sorry in Chinese, whatever. And his girlfriend or whoever that was like right behind him about 10 meters. She's kind of staying back, like I think she felt like there was, she's guilty about something. I don't know what was going on. Maybe it's not her fault. I have no idea. Like I said, when I talked to his niece later, she's mentioning like, oh, he's a really bad driver and he's been in many accidents. It's like, well, why the fuck is he driving then, right? I asked him the job, and it's like, it's because he's a government worker. He's a lawyer or something like that for the state or that area. So I guess, easy how you could get away with that, right? So yeah, I was laying there for a few minutes, and then, because there's not a lot of traffic, but of course a bus stopped and maybe another bus, and all these Chinese people got out and basically just like surrounded, just started taking photos of me, which super I don't know, it seems super random and inappropriate, but whatever. Luckily, there was one lady, I see one lady with blonde hair walk up, and there just happened to be an American lady on that bus who worked up in that area. She knew some Chinese, and so she could translate a bit, and we could see what was going on. Luckily, that guy admitted he did it, even when the police came at like, 10 or 20 minutes later. So that was good, because, if he tried to like say it was my fault or something, that would be the beginning of, obviously more problems, like me having to pay for everything, because he ended up paying, and I'll go into it later, but I basically got a lawyer and went to court later to try to get money and stuff. So yeah, I'm just laying there bleeding, and then eventually the ambulance came like 40 minutes later or something like that. And yeah, it was crazy too, because like they come up and they just like grab my arms and were gonna lift me, like just like each person grab a leg and an arm. And I was like, whoa, like grab someone with like a broken femur, and everything else is sore and busted. I assumed I even had internal bleeding at this point, right? And so, I had the lady help to mention, like, do you guys have a stretcher or something like that? They go back, they like pull out a stretcher, like they didn't even realize, like it's pretty obvious stuff, right? And so, I went in the ambulance for like 45 minutes or whatever to the hospital, which, looked quite mediocre. The paint and stuff on the wall was all worn out, and tissues all over the rooms on like the counters or floors and stuff. It's a real countryside type hospital. I definitely wouldn't want to get surgery there. Which actually I think that wasn't even an option, but I was like, we'll go to Kunming, the bigger city. And so I met a few other foreigners maybe that evening or the next day, and it was good too, because they didn't even give me any pain medicine or anything like that. In China, they don't really easily give away pain meds, which in some regards is good, because in the States everyone's on Oxycontin for like, you bruise your toe or something, they just give it like candy. It's a huge problem. But here it's like, I have a legitimate big issue, and they're giving me like ibuprofen or something. So one of the ladies had it for like back problems, and so she gave me some medicine. And so yeah, then we were talking about going to the Red Cross hospital, because apparently that would be a lot better. And I was like, sure, I'll go to the Red Cross hospital. They said they talked to one of their American friends who was a doctor, and he said this place would be fine. So when they mentioned Red Cross hospital, I'm assuming like the official Red Cross hospital, which is like, there'd be like an international team, like a guy from Sweden, Japan, and Germany, and Canada, and people would know English, and it was like where the people where like the international community would go. But it was just called Red Cross. Like it was actually like number 7 hospital somewhere near Green Lake and Kunming, basically. A big hospital and everything, but definitely not international hospital or anything like I was assuming. In general, I wasn't super worried about it, as far as the idea, like, broken bones happen everywhere in the world. So I figured that's a very standard procedure, whether you're in, India, China, Argentina, America, or Germany. So I wasn't as stressed. Like if I had a big medical emergency, like, something with like my brain or my heart or treatment that I would need for months or years, I would definitely go to the States or something. But I've got a broken femur. I don't have a million options. It's not like I could hop on a flight, fly to the States. And I kind of didn't want to go home because, a lot of people, of course, were a little pessimistic, right, about my idea. I'm like, I'm going to bike around the world. They're like, hey, dude, this is super dangerous. Something could happen. And then, of course, I get hit 4 months into my trip, and I didn't want to kind of prove them right in a way. So, yeah, so then I was making the plans to go to Kunming. In the meantime, I stayed in the hospital for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 nights. And it was kind of, I could say funny, maybe funny now, obnoxious then. But, the people in the hospital heard there's a foreigner there, and there's obviously not that many foreigners in that area. And so, like, I wake up in the middle of the night, someone just turns on the light and opens the door just to look at me. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? Close the door. Like, leave me alone. Like, they have no sense of privacy and stuff. So that kept happening all the time. And you can imagine it's already super hard to sleep. I've got a broken femur. I've been ran over by a car. Like, I don't need the extra, obnoxious of people just opening the door all the time or coming in, this kind of thing. And so eventually the driver paid for the seats on the flight to get me back to Kunming. He had to buy the whole row of, I guess, it must have been 4 or 5 seats to get a stretcher on there. And then they took me to Kunming, and, I took the ambulance to the hospital. And there I would spend, the next 3.5 weeks or so. And I had surgery there, and it was completely insane. But I don't like these videos being too long, so I'll make another one about the hospital stay and everything like that. So I hope you enjoyed so far. Like and subscribe, and I'll post the other videos soon. Cheers.